Hello, everybody. Good morning. Thanks for coming. My name is Alessandro Perilli. I'm the GM for the management strategy in the management business unit at Red Hat. And today we're going to talk a little bit about how the management portfolio that we're pulling together is helping our customers to navigate through the complexity of the digital transformation. So if you attended any industry event in the last few months, you heard the digital transformation a million of times. So I'm not going to repeat the story of DevOps developing faster, in the application changing the architecture, the infrastructure changing the delivery model. Actually, I just did, but I'm sorry. That was a bad trick. I want to talk a little bit more about what that actually means. So what is behind the digital transformation? What is the outcome of the digital transformation, and why does it matter from a management standpoint? Okay? So there are three ingredients that we believe are critical outcomes of the digital transformation. First of all, a need for much simpler kind of interaction with enterprise software. Okay, what we call easy of use, some of you heard me describing as frictionless IT. We will talk about that in a second over Twitter or other social media within Red Hat. Okay? So the need for a much simpler consumption from the installation to the documentation to the usage of enterprise software. The need for speed. It's much faster capability to get to the point with the enterprise software that we're using, regardless of application platforms, and applications, infrastructure, it doesn't matter. Management tools, it doesn't matter. What matters is that there is a need, there is a push to have a much faster capabilities within the enterprise software compared to what we have today. And the third element is the modularity. So the capability to combine together different functionalities within the same product or different products together to fit the business case and the use case the different IT organizations have. There is not just one single business case. As you perfectly know, your realities are different across different industries. So there is no one single product that can solve all the challenges that you have. You combine together different products. And even within the same product, you're trying to combine different capabilities. Some of them you use, some of them you don't, okay, to solve a specific challenge that you have in your organization. So these three desires, these three needs, are shaping the way IT, enterprise IT, is transforming today. And that really is the outcome of the digital transformation. The ease of use, the need for much simpler interaction is shaping IT towards a more frictionless kind of experience, as we often describe in the management business unit. So an enterprise IT that resembles more what is the consumer IT. A private cloud or a public cloud in the enterprise sense of the word is much similar to a public cloud like in the personal sense of the word. Okay? So basically what I'm saying is that the experience that we develop in our everyday life outside the office as individuals, when we interact with Dropbox, with Evernote, with whatever consumer-grade tools you're using in a public cloud, is shaping our understanding and our desire of how IT in general should be. So when we get back into the enterprise environment, we have the same expectation that the enterprise IT is as simple as the one that we experience in our everyday life. And this is true, at least partially, for this generation of folks that are in this room, including myself, okay? But it's even more true for the new generation of folks that are entering the enterprises today. Those guys are growing with just the experience of the personal cloud that is being shaped by the public cloud providers today. They are super simple to use. So their expectation will be at every level of the enterprise for a similarly simple enterprise IT. So this is number one. And then we have number two. The desire for speed to achieve something much faster compared to today is what pushing really hard for a transformation of the IT environment from the infrastructure up to the application platform level through APIs. So you see this proliferation of APIs. Every single product out there now has an API exposed. It must be maintained pretty much the same level of the product itself. So the API becomes a product itself. Okay? And at the application layer, this turns into two different things. One, the API that exposes the product for consumption. Two, the APIs that two different products, two different applications can use to integrate with each other. Okay? So mash up and create new kind of services. At the lower level, the infrastructure is turning into code itself. So you heard from analysis firms like Gartner, for example, the notion infrastructure as code. That is part of this programmable IT kind of trend. So this desire of manipulating every element of the computing stack in a fully automated way. And then the third one is the need for modularity that we were talking about before, that is pushing towards an hybrid IT. I'm not talking about hybrid cloud, but broader concept, that is hybrid IT. So the capability to combine together, as I said before, different features within the same product in a modular, composable fashion, different products from different vendors together in a computing stack that makes sense in a best-of-breed fashion for your enterprise needs, and different vendors and different products together, mashing up solutions, like in this example, to get to the best possible, the most efficient way to solve a business problem. So these are the three elements, the three trends that are reshaping enterprise IT as we know it today. Now, if we go back to the digital transformation, what's happening is that these needs and the resulting trends are coming from the developers within the line of business. So it's the line of business that is pushing for this transformation. And this transformation is not technological. Sure, there's plenty of technologies. You will hear during the entire week talking about infrastructure as a service, containers, security, all aspects. But what we're talking about here is really about cultural transformation. It's who is in charge, who has the power to push for that kind of transformation. Okay? So what's happening is that, as I said at the beginning, developers within the line of business are pushing for this transformation that is reshaping the way applications are delivered, are programmed and delivered through new infrastructure models. What's happening to the operation guys? This is the million-dollar question. What is happening to them? Well, they are seeing this transformation happening in front of their very own eyes, but there is not much that they are doing. So in a lot of situations, we risk to see them fading away in terms of control, in terms of relevance, and so on. So what we should do? Their risk is extinction, because the basic function of operations are shifted to the developers now, and everything else is delivered by the public cloud service providers. So Red Hat management comes to the rescue to help operation team to stay relevant in this conversation and have a say in this conversation. More importantly, to support those other three elements of the digital transformation as they are evolving after three big factors. Because this is the point. Operation team are seeing this world changing and this demand for frictionless, programmable, and hybrid IT, and they don't have the tool to make this change because everything is changing except management. Management is the only part that is not changing. So what we're trying to do in Red Hat is changing management so that operation teams stay relevant in this conversation. And to do that, we're putting together a portfolio of products that right now is composed of 4 different products that you see there. Okay? So let's talk about each of them very briefly. Satellite. This is the oldest product that we have at Red Hat. If you're a Red Hat customer, you already know about the product. Okay, so I don't want to spend too much time educating about what Satellite does. But in its essence, Satellite can take care of all aspects of the life cycle of Red Hat Network. That is what is the best doing. And in doing so, it does a million of different things. So when I have to decide just one way to describe what Satellite does, I often use the analogy of UPS. Because what Satellite does great is delivering at scale trusted content within the network. CloudForms. What do we do with CloudForms? CloudForms is what the industry calls, or the industry analysts call, a cloud management platform. Cloud management platform is considered a master management console, or manager of managers, and it's supposed to give consistency in terms of management of different environments that are very different from each other. Server virtualization, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, private clouds, public clouds, and so on. Trying to describe a cloud management platform is quite complicated. And I'm a former Gartner analyst. And when I was in Gartner, I was in charge of the research for cloud management platforms. So I spent quite a lot of time in trying to define them. Okay? And I know that one of the biggest criticism or one of the biggest concerns that customers have when they look at the cloud management platform is that it's too complex to bring under a single pane of glass the management to too many environments together. And this is a criticism that you will see coming from a lot of experts in the industry. Because when they think about managing very many complex environments, they think about aggregating together all the features that each of those platforms provide individually through their management console. But this is not the value of the single pane of glass. That's not where you want to use, how you want to use a cloud management platform. So the analogy that I use to describe CloudForms in most cases is this. In your environment, in your living room, you have a bunch of different devices, right? You have the TV, you have maybe the Xbox or the PlayStation, you have Alexa, well, Alexa doesn't count because it doesn't have a TV remote, but you have the Apple TV and God knows how many others, right? So do I. One thing I discover with myself, but also with friends, is that as long as you stay with 2-3 devices in the living room, you're kind of okay using different remotes that come from each device. But when you start to pass 4 devices, 5 devices, you start to get crazy. And you look for an alternative solution. You look for something that is much simpler than this. So you go for a unified interface where you can do all the basic things immediately, as fast as possible, the one that you do the most often. So you go for a unified TV remote control. That is the point of a cloud management platform. That's where the value is. The cloud management platform is like a TV remote that's highly advanced, that can centralize the most used commands that come from the single management tools for each platform, and can add some value on top of it, like a display that is programmable and so on. Right? Ansible. What Ansible does. Ansible is our IT automation tool. We acquired the company at the end of last year. We're very proud of the progress that Ansible is making. And the difference between Ansible and many other solutions that you see on the market is, again, in a great simplicity in the way you write the automation script, what we call the playbooks. And this, again, fits our view of the world, where we try to simplify the experience to address the need for ease of use that we were describing at the beginning. Of course, the analogy that comes easier to make is with the assembly line. Okay, so you can explain Ansible by saying, okay, this is an assembly line that greatly increased the speed of execution in terms of putting together a car. But actually, this is not a great analogy. It's a terrible analogy for Ansible. Why? Because you look at this, you realize how powerful it is and how efficient it is. But you also realize how expensive the stuff is, okay? And how complicated it is to put together. And Ansible is not like that at all. It's exactly the opposite. So a better analogy for Ansible would be this. This is Lego Mindstorms. How many of you know what this is? Shame on you. I mean, okay. So for the ones that don't know, sorry, you get to get this history lesson. Lego Mindstorm is a special set released by Lego that is all around that central brick, the white big brick unit over there. This is a small programmable computer. And you get a number of additional pieces and sensors that can react to motion and temperature and other things. And you basically put them together in different ways, and you can build robots that are automated or semi-automated. And this is very powerful. In fact, there are some people that have a lot of free time in their hands that use Lego Mindstorm to put together machines that can fold and fly paper planes in a fully automated way. Okay? But at the same time, it's so easy that even a child, even a kid of 10 years, can use this. Okay? So if I really need to use an analogy to describe Ansible, I will combine the two things together. The power and the efficiency of an assembly line, but the cost of entry of a Lego Mindstorm. This is what Ansible is all about. And now we have the fourth product, which is our newest addition to the management portfolio, that is called Insights. To describe Insights, because it's so new and so different, a big departure from what Red Hat has done so far today, I would like to call on stage William Nix, that can talk a little bit about this.
Thanks, Alessandro. So, at Red Hat, we've helped a lot of people throughout the years. Over the last 15 years, Red Hat's combined knowledge has been accumulated by our engineers, our software developers, and our support and consulting staff. And what we decided to do with that information is to build it out into a usable engine for all of our customers to be able to get critical information about their infrastructure before a problem occurs. What you're seeing now is Insights on the Red Hat customer portal. Red Hat Insights is integrated with the tools in the management portfolio, CloudForms, Satellite, and the customer portal. So really briefly, we only have a few minutes. Would you like to see a container rule demo or a security problem in a demo environment?
Both.
Both, okay. That means he's giving me more time.
I can help.
So we'll drill down into the actions screen. The actions screen is kind of the central hub of where we want you to see all of the infrastructure problems in your environment. This could be security issues, it could be a software configuration problem, or it could be something that's already happened. You could have a system down or not checking in, as you see here. If we drill down into the security issues, we'll use Heartbleed as an example. About 2 years ago, Heartbleed came out on the scene. It was one of the biggest, baddest vulnerabilities out there. So what we did at Red Hat was we developed a few rules to detect things like Heartbleed and give you varying levels of information about your vulnerable systems. This particular rule in Insights shows 3 systems afflicted by Heartbleed where it's listening on a publicly accessible port. So there's a daemon running that's vulnerable to this. You could be remotely exploitable. Simply drill down into one of the systems that's afflicted. As it loads, we see we have some metadata up here about this system, in particular what versions it's running. We also see the detected issue with an explanation with tailored information from this host. This is the specific package version that it's running, and this is the daemon that's affected. So SSH is listening on this host. We've also given you a prescriptive analysis of how to resolve this particular issue. In this case, it's simply updating OpenSSL and restarting the service or the box. I mentioned a tiered approach. There are other rules that show when you have the package simply installed but not necessarily listening on the port, and also just when you have, if you have Apache running or another daemon running on the system, it'll show up in this list on the left under detected issues. So that's one of our key security rules. We can also drill down into one of our new inventory options for containers. We can see in our inventory screen all of our infrastructure systems. We can also filter on those to find all of our supported platforms. So we'll look at Red Hat containers. And this will show us in this demo environment, we have an image, a container, and a host. This is also showing us that we have 3 actions on the image, 2 actions on the host, and 2 actions on the container itself. Critical thing for your infrastructure is to first resolve problems on your host systems. So if we drill down into the host system, which is host1insights.redhat.com, we can see specifically errors that are on this host that could cause the guest to fail. We see the detected issue, simply telling us what configuration problems it's detected. In this situation, it looks like containers will, varlib docker containers will become full and it's going to cause possibly the daemon to fail to work in the expected way. So we have a very quick way to fix that here. This could be a configuration change. It could be a simple command line command that you could run on a system. You can also drill down here to the Red Hat knowledge base. As I mentioned, all that accumulated support data, we've figured out that by taking statistically frequented problems that customers like you send in to us, and we help validate those resolutions, we add them to the insight service to make that information available to the customer base at large. So that's our host. Say that we fix that. The next thing to attack would be to fix the image on that host. The reason we want to fix the image instead of just the container is because each subsequent container deployed from this image will also be vulnerable or have the same problem. So you drill down into the container image, and you see that local users are enabled via SFTP in the container image, tells us the problem, tells us how to fix it, tells us to commit it so that future containers from this image will be fixed. And last but not least, our container itself. This is a running container. So if we drill down into it, we see the same problem afflicts this container. A slightly different thing to do, since this is a running container, we want to actually restart the VSFTP daemon. That will fix this container. It's also telling us to Docker commit because we may want to reuse this container instead of destroying it. So those are two examples of security and an infrastructure vulnerability where we think that Insights can really help you in your infrastructure, both in your data centers and in the cloud. So if you have any other questions, feel free to drop by the Insights booth in the Partner Pavilion. And we have 2 sessions tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So, great. Thank you. Let's bring all of this together, right? We talk about the need for easy of use. So you saw that we are betting on an IT automation platform, Ansible. It's much easier, according to thousands of developers out there that have no affiliation with Red Hat, that were writing about this way before the acquisition. How easy to use is Ansible compared to the other solutions that are out there. But other examples, Insights delivers software as a service. So the departure from the traditional way of doing things at Red Hat to simplify consumption even further. But I could provide other examples. For example, CloudForms. CloudForms is a very complicated cloud management platform, and it comes with a single appliance when our competitors are using from 6 to 12 different components that you have to deploy in your organization to make it work. Okay? Speed, the capability to execute as fast as possible, tightly connected to this, and the programmable IT. We bet on Ansible to automate every single aspect of your infrastructure up to the application level in terms of configuration of network, for example, one of the latest functionalities that we introduced, capability to compose multi-tier application across private and public cloud providers. And then the capability to be frictionless. So all the examples I already provide to increase the simplicity of consumption. There's trends and the desire that comes from the line of business to simplify the experience, making faster and more modular is what is shaping the management portfolio. And that's why we have these 4 products right now in the portfolio. But what matters to me is not just to describe the products per se by themselves. What matters to me is also to clarify what is the strategy behind these products coming together in the portfolio. This actually is the most important part I want to describe today. Why these products and not others? Why we have these exact tools? Well, we decided to start building the portfolio from the IT automation tool and Insights and CloudForms and so on, rather than go for completely different categories. There's plenty of category management, so we could have gone in a completely different direction. So why these ones? Part of the reason is in this curve. What you see here is a very typical adoption curve for an enterprise that is building a private and then eventually a hybrid cloud. Okay? And this curve is shaped after 2 dimensions, the scale and the complexity. If you're successful in your deployment, in your cloud project, as an IT organization, again, let me stress this concept. If you are successful, your scale will increase exponentially over time. Because from one single team that is deploying its application within your cloud, there will be multiple teams, an entire line of business, one after the other, that will decide to move their applications into your cloud. The second dimension is related to this popularity, and it's the complexity. Why? Because the more line of business adopt your cloud and ask you to host their application into the cloud, the more diverse will be their business needs. That will start to ask you hosting applications that were not designed to run in your cloud. Okay? That will start to ask you exceptions to what is standardized to run in your cloud. But that will start to ask you to run multi-tier applications that are very complex to deploy in your cloud. And so all of this will increase complexity exponentially. So if you are successful, in a lot of cases, you will see this exponential growth that is related to scale and complexity. And this is a journey that spans across multiple years and goes through multiple stages. Now, for simplicity, we divide in 4 different stages of evolution. Okay? And in a sense, you can kind of relate this to the Industrial Revolution. This was not a wanted similarity with the keynote that you just heard from Jim today. It was a nice coincidence. If you think about how the Industrial Revolution changed in terms of phases, from the artisanal phase to the automation that we have today and the use of drones, there are quite some similarities in terms of what you're going to face in terms of challenges in your cloud journey. Okay? So let's talk about that for a second. At the beginning of your cloud journey, when you start deploying your cloud engine, you are ready to scale, potentially. But you don't do that. You start from a small proof of concept, and you use the tools that are provided with your cloud engine to make it work, to run your cloud. But then eventually, and so you can rely on infrastructure as a service cloud, like Red Hat OpenStack platform, or you can rely on a platform as a service cloud, like OpenShift, Red Hat OpenShift. That's your choice in terms of decisions that are related to your technical decisions, your cultural background, your desire to work more with virtual machines or more with containers. The point is that you get into this curve by the fundamental question, how can we move faster? And then you eventually move to the next level. In the Industrial Revolution was the need for the artisan to reach a wider scale while maintaining the quality. How can you do that with your cloud? How can you really grow from the initial deployment of your cloud engines to a point where you can run at scale, not just move faster? And that's where tools like, in our portfolio, like Red Hat Satellite and Insights come into play. Because these are the first tools you can deploy to start to run at scale a growing in complexity cloud. When you start to make the most out in terms of efficiency for your cloud that is growing. So you need to be sure that there is a diagnostic, a recognition of the issues that occur within your cloud as fast as possible in a proactive manner. And those issues are fixed, so recognized with Insight and fixed with Satellite. They can deliver content and can deliver security patches as fast as possible. But then there is the next level of this. It's similar to the next level of the Industrial Revolution, the automation phase. So you have a cloud that is growing in scale. It starts to grow, as we said, at this point of the evolution in complexity, because you are successful and more line of business are asking to host their applications. And their applications get more complex every time. Rather than be one tier, they're multi-tier applications, and some of them require some adjustments to the cloud engine that were not there by design. So you start to need faster deployment, faster provisioning, faster composition of the cloud elements for your line of business. You need to squeeze as much efficiency as you can from your cloud. And so you rely on automation, just like in Industrial Revolution. So that's where Ansible has a place to be. Now, just to be clear, this is not what every single IT organization is doing among our customers, what we expect will happen for every single customer. There are a lot of customers that use automation very early on in the stage, others that use very later, like some customers that don't use satellite at the beginning, but very late in the process. This is just an average, what we're seeing and what we expect from an average number of customers. Every reality is different. And then eventually you get into the last phase, which is how you have to combine a highly successful cloud with a bunch of other IT environments that pre-existed already and will exist later after the cloud. So you have to combine the management of the private and hybrid cloud with the private cloud with server virtualization environment that are already there, with a number of public cloud providers that you decide to adopt, and with a number of other elements that will come in the future, like, for example, an Internet of Things environment. How do you do that in a manner that is fully centralized and coherent, just like in the example of the universal TV remote I was describing? Okay? That's where CloudForms come into play. When you need to manage such a highly sophisticated and complex heterogeneous environment, you need a single pane of glass that's consistent. Where the single pane of glass, again, is not a gigantic TV remote that does all the buttons in the world, but just the ones that make the most sense, that you need the most to run efficiently your organization. This curve that we just described is not just a story that is convenient to us as a value proposition for the management portfolio. But this is something that we're already proving, we're also proving through a mathematical model. So my team, a few months ago, got tasked to find out what is the total cost of ownership of an OpenStack-based private cloud. I asked my team, can you please, guys, tell me what is the total cost of ownership and what we can do to lower that cost as much as possible? It was meant to be an internal project. We had no desire to publish this to the outside world. What we will find out eventually is that, first of all, the studies that were out there at that time were not complete. Didn't include a number of metrics that are incredibly important for an accurate measurement of the total cost of ownership. Two, we realized that we were onto something that was really valuable. So we changed our mind and we decided to share the research with everybody. And eventually, we got a lot of visibility. We got invited to multiple OpenStack summits in Tokyo, in Austin. We presented this total cost of ownership to OpenStack forums around the world. And this TCO model was validated by financial experts and industry analysts. What this financial model says, of course, there's a full research. This is just one single slide, is that if you're successful, the more you grow into the years, your cloud, the lower is the cost of your virtual machine. But to lower the cost of the virtual machine, you need to invest in automation and management tools. That's the only way for you to keep down the cost of a growing environment in complexity. If you're interested in reading all the story about this, you can simply go to this URL that is absolutely unreadable for all of you. Right? This is done on purpose. So what's the point? How do I want to close this? And then we can open for Q&A. We have a lot of people from the management business unit in the room that can answer a lot of your questions. The point is that there's a growing need for reshaping IT, enterprise IT as we know it. We're listening to what the customer is asking and reshaping and evolving the management portfolio after that demand to stay relevant and be sure that our customers are relevant to the future generation that want frictionless IT, programmable IT, hybrid IT. And we're shaping their management portfolio in a way that can manage at the same time in a consistent way, in a coherent way, two worlds. A world of legacy applications, traditional applications that are here to stay and will remain forever, and a world of new applications that are designed to scale out, to grow in complexity, that are meant to be much simpler compared to what we have today. And we're doing so. I don't know how easy it is to see the difference in colors, and my choice of color in retrospective was ugly, but I'm sorry about that. we're doing this not just based on a stack that is a red stack. We're not doing this just by composing, putting together Red Hat products, but we are absolutely open by design to support third-party solutions. So just like CloudForms, for example, supports private cloud provider from VMware and Microsoft, Ansible that supports a wide range of public cloud provider and more, and Windows and Linux workloads. So we're not just trying to be ready for the demand of the new generations for all the different use cases that you see in green and all the others that will come next. But we're also supporting the need for modularity and composability. That is the demand of today's generation of enterprises. Thank you very much. Questions? Lego Mindstorms, anybody? Okay. Well, thank you.